interesting organization that I had not heard of before I came to St. Simon, or to Brunswick, Glenn County. So I've discovered that part of my sort of journey is learning new things. So let me tell you how I got here. We've had a house on St. Simon's for about 7 years, but I had a full-time job in Washington. Washington D.C. So if you want to talk about what happened last night, I might actually know more about that than I do about small business. So, but as you age and you have different experiences professionally, you think about all the things that you haven't done. So when I retired from a big corporation in October of last year, I'd been thinking for quite a while about what it was that I wanted to do once I had the bandwidth, once I had the resources, once I had sort of the what didn't I know? What would I like to know about? And so I started looking at business opportunities on St. Simon's because this sounds sort of Pollyanna-like, but I wanted something that would really bind me to the community. I wanted to sort of change my life, as Sarah sort of discussed, and not be in a sort of 60-hour-a-week corporate job, managing 60 people around the world in a large organization. So I started with the simple question: what does St. Simon's not have that I think would be beneficial to the community and be a interesting project for me? And I looked at a few different options. One of my neighbors, who's a prominent attorney here in Brunswick, said, I know exactly what you should invest in and do, because St. Simon's just doesn't have anything like this, and we really need one. I said, well, what is that? He said, we don't have an undertaker. We don't have a funeral home on St. Simon's. and I said, and he said, and you can make a lot of money on this, because if you die, they have to take you to Brunswick. And so I said, well, thank you very much for your advice, but this isn't actually something I can have passion about. So I think, one of the things that I think about when I think about how I got into this is, you do have to have passion about your project, because you are going to spend a lot more time, even a lot more time than I thought that I was going to spend. So the long and short of it is that in my experience, I have been to coffee places all over the world that I think have a couple of things that are unique. One is there is a community there. It isn't something that you do once a year right before Christmas when you run out and go buy gifts for people at the at the PlayStation store or wherever it is. It's something that becomes sort of a habit, and it is a place where communities can meet, where businesses can meet, and it becomes kind of a gathering place. I think the other is that coffee is this interesting intersection between science. There's a lot of chemistry in actually making really good coffee. There's a lot of depth to where does coffee really come from, and you start looking at coffee growing regions around the world. You find some interesting places: Africa, South America, the islands, the islands of the Pacific. These are all. There's a lot of background in this, but it is an intersection between science, art. How you do this makes for a different experience every time that you do it, and then business. And I in getting this little presentation ready, which you have on your, I think on the tables here, they're printed double-sided, not just because it's environmentally correct, but because it's less expensive. The reality is that specialty coffee is actually a growth business in the United States and around the world. While in the last 2 decades you've sort of seen a change from, we were talking about Starbucks over here. Starbucks really didn't change how Americans thought about coffee. It wasn't just a 1950s, let's meet at the coffee shop. It became an experience. But since Starbucks really took on the world, and made billions of dollars in the meantime. There's been another wave or two since then. Specialty coffee has actually been, is an emerging trend. When you read in the paper that Nestle just bought a European coffee company for $6 billion, it sort of catches your eye. But a couple of statistics that I thought were very interesting is that 59% of the coffee now consumed is considered specialty coffee. So it is not just a commodity product. It has these interesting elements of where do they come from, how is it prepared, where is it served. And there are elements about this that have some interesting demographics. People who are a lot younger than I am find that they seek out coffee places like Local Brew, not only to gather, not only to get coffee, and to have meetings, but to do work. They don't like to actually, a lot of people work at home now, and they don't actually like to work at home because it's too distracting. They'd rather be in a place like this that has a lot of Wi-Fi capacity. So we get a lot of that. So just to speed forward, I started looking around on St. Simon's really before this time last year, but finally found a place in late 2017 that I thought would work. I was looking within a 1 mile radius of the intersection of Sea Island Road and Frederica Road on St. Simon's for a reason. And that is because on the north end of the island, there really isn't any place like this. And so we did find a place right in that little area, and I spent 6 months building it out. Unlike Sarah, who conveniently found a spot in an existing building, there wasn't anything that even came close to what you need. I spent 6 months building out the place that I wanted, because I wanted a place that was different, that is really kind of part coffee shop, partly art gallery, and partly a place where you can get a very simple meal. Local Brew is a coffee bar, but we are offering what we hope were locally sourced food items, breakfast and lunch, including healthy items. Turned out to be a lot harder than I thought, because this may be Georgia, but it sort of felt like Massachusetts when I was trying to get the regulators to sort of see the vision. Everybody seems to want local, want to buy local, but the policies don't actually really support that. So we have gotten to the point, we opened in July, so we've been open for 3 months. I currently have 6 employees. That's an interesting process in the economy that is, at the tightest unemployment since the early 2000s. It's been an interesting odyssey to hire people. We are open every day, which also has some ups and downs. I mean, I kind of think of coffee as something that you shouldn't have to guess about whether you're open or not. So we are open every day, 8 o'clock on the weekends, but 7 o'clock on weekdays until late afternoon. And that's turned out to be, I think, the right idea, but the fact is, when you open a new business, you have to sort of accept the fact that there are going to be times when there are no customers. And like Sarah, I have struggled also with trying to figure out who the customer is. In the place that I am, in the physical location that I am, we do get a lot of tourists. We are less than a mile from the Sea Island Resort, and there are thousands of people that come to Sea Island who know and experience and appreciate the kind of product that I'm offering. And actually, they find us. In the summertime, I didn't really realize this, but we had some of our best days in July and August because there were people who were coming in, finding us on Google Maps or on Instagram or on TripAdvisor that turned out to appreciate our product. The group that I'm having the most sort of challenges getting to are the people who live on St. Simons. And it is because they are not used to the experience that some other people who come from other places are used to, and that they seek out. So we have done some marketing. It's expensive. I found that in Glenn County, advertising can be as expensive as it is in Washington, D.C. It's not quite as high quality as I'm used to, but it is as expensive. So that's kind of an eye-opening experience. The other is that you can waste a lot of money on advertising very quickly. I can tell you a bad story about Google Ads, that one of my well-meaning employees thought he was doing me a favor by putting advertising on Google, which I was okay with because I had experienced it, and there is a way to put a governor on how much you spend. The Google Ad works on clicks. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I have friends all over the country and all over the world. They thought they were doing me a favor by clicking on it. As it turned out, it ran the Google bill way high, $1,000 in 6 weeks. And in fact, it was people who were not going to buy my product. So, you know, there are some lessons learned along the way that you know, you as a small business owner may or may not be aware of. And I'll be the first to tell you that I am not the social media queen. I need to like enroll in boot camp for social media. But in fact, it is a way that many people consume information. But in this area, I don't think there's any one silver bullet for marketing. I think you have to. I equate it to putting, you know, a piece of bait on a hook and throwing it into the river and seeing how it works. I want to see results, and we are tracking the results from some promotions through the chamber, some promotions through that we're putting up on Facebook. There are a couple of sites that people seem to gravitate to in this area that you can put some interesting, I mean, not blatant like car ads. Do you hate those pop-up ads that show up on, if you go to read the newspaper online, that you're just constantly bombarded? I would never buy anything from any of those people because it's so irritating. But in fact, there are ways to do this. But instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, I think you have to put your eggs in many baskets. So I've probably said enough. The other piece that I would add is our future growth plan is first of all to stabilize the operation. The coffee part is stable. The food part, we are using a combination of local sources for our food. It has been kind of an experiment, and actually we're trying to get better at it. I'm actually taking more of the capacity for that back in-house because you can control volumes and quantities and quality better. So in 1,500 square feet of space, which is what I have for my entire coffee bar, we have 7 sinks, and we're about to have 8 because the regulators want sinks for all kinds of things. I'm so heavy on sinks that the floor may come down. But in fact, in order to be compliant with the regulations, I'm going to have 8 sinks in 1,500 square feet. So, welcome to Georgia. But in fact, I think getting more lunch traffic is actually key to our success. And then the other is marketing the space for events. We've had 2 fundraisers, we've had a dinner party, we've had multiple meetings that we have arranged in this space, and it works very well. It's a very flexible, beautiful, high ceiling, light, art-filled space. So I'm really trying to get groups, whether they are nonprofit groups, businesses, other entities, to think about us as a resource for that. I'm getting the hook. Can I take some questions?
Yes, I'd love to have you ask questions. Plus, this is why I have no friends. They just cost you money. And that's why you should, this is a flaw in you. Let's check back here with Kate.
By the way, I did bring coffee, so please sample it before you go and let us know what you think. Again, the more coffee that you drink and the different kinds of coffee that you drink, the more you'll appreciate the difference. So, go ahead.
Hey Nancy, I actually don't have a question, but I did forget to mention something earlier. I know you just said that you wanted to learn more about Facebook and how to market it for your business. We are actually doing a business education series class coming up. It's going to be at the Chamber on Wednesday, November 13th at 8:30 in the morning, and the UGA Small Business Development Center is going to be doing the presentation, and the topic is what's new with Facebook. So that should be a really great class for you if you have the time to come by and sit in.
Sign me up.
Yeah, okay.
Another question.
Hello, Nancy. I've been to your place a couple of times. Really enjoyed it. Beautiful place. I think it's a great place to have meetings, especially in the morning. One thing I noticed in your menu, though, you don't have any wheat. I know it might not be the healthiest, but there's nothing like the aroma of coffee and bacon in the morning.
Well, you haven't been back in a while because one of our latest and actually very popular items is kind of on our fall menu, which is a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. And we also are adding a bacon and egg and cheese type sort of muffin for breakfast. So we've heard a little of that. There are people here who do not think it's breakfast unless you are, have some breakfast meats. So we're not anti-meat. We're also not anti-gluten-free. And Sarah and I actually did try and may try again to get some gluten-free items into my store because frankly people do look for them. There's a little marketing along with that though, because we did have some chia pudding with blueberries and people looked at it like they didn't have any idea what that was. So chia seeds are actually very healthy, but you'll find them in San Francisco, you'll find them in New York, but you might not find them here, or you might have to explain what they are.
I have a quick question. So I'm a big coffee drinker. I spend most of my day drinking coffee. And the one question I have, and I haven't been to your place, is did you put a drive-in yet?
So when I first started looking for a location, I thought that a drive-through was necessary for the economics, and it actually is. But in the location that I was looking at, there is no place that you can put one. And I don't know that there's going to be a place that you can put one until all these banks that have drive-throughs start to go out of business because no one does their banking in person anymore. So I looked at it in retrospect.
Bacon.
That's the very first meat comment that's ever come up in here. I have to deliver some
Well,
bacon.
listening to the customers is actually a really good idea, right? So, in retrospect, I'm not sure we've gone sort of down a different path, which is to have something that's not fast, but more sit down and have a conversation and have a meeting. So it wasn't possible, but we did look into it because the economics of it are very compelling. And people hate to get out of their cars here.
Yeah.
The good news is we have lots of parking, particularly early in the morning, because nothing else is open in my little area.
And on the Starbucks thing, and I love the history of Starbucks. The reason they created something that was so important, that was the experience.
Right.
And for that reason, they built,
Different.
what they have.
Right.
But at the same time, convenience is so important, and that's what most of us need. We're on our way to go and grab the coffee, go and keep drinking.
I have thought about doing an app that you could actually, order it and it could be ready.
And Starbucks has that too.
They do have that, although it doesn't work very well. But in fact, in a place like ours, I think it would work well because, again, we don't have a parking problem, particularly early in the morning when most of the people that are really in a big rush are wanting, their coffee fast. We have plenty of parking. But the technology, again, is a little daunting. You gotta get somebody to design that for you, and that is not gonna be me.
What about going to corporations and saying, you know, if you're gonna have a meeting, I can bring all the coffee, I can, kind of like catering.
Well, in fact, and we have done that. We will do a catered type lunch. I've done a couple of business meetings like that. And we can certainly have it ready for you if you are, you know, if you can call us or email us, we can get it ready for you and have it ready to go. But that's another good avenue, and we've done a couple of those, but not nearly enough yet. So I'm preparing a mailing actually to local businesses and organizations, offering a 20% discount on any kind of business like that. Because I think once people sort of get it through their heads that this is not just some place that you can go to get a cup of coffee, but it's a place where we can do a broader sort of menu. I think it'll help our economics.
I was just going to ask, one of the things I'm guilty of is a lot of good local places are out of sight, out of mind. Will the landlord allow you to put one of those, what are they called, the placards that stand out at the curb where you can do it just first few hours in the morning, Wi-Fi and coffee, because a lot of people just go to sit down that live on this island and go into town for business. And that's what I did one morning. I just wanted to grab a cup of coffee, and I remember you were there now.
Right.
Just popped in to grab a cup of coffee because I had a downtown meeting.
Right.
So will the landlord maybe allow you?
It's not the landlord, and once again, it's the county. We ordered a large $300, nice looking sign, and about 2 weeks later, one of my people that work in the store called me and they said, well, some guy from the county came and brought it into the store and said we couldn't have it, that we had to have a permit. I said, we have to have a permit? And it took me 2.5 weeks to get a permit for one sign out of the Glenn County zoning or development office over here. Again, they're all over Glenn County. So I'm not sure why I got nailed on that particular thing. But again, it didn't cost any money. I was happy to pay them. If they wanted a revenue, if they wanted $50 for a sign, I was willing to give them $50. But again, they're not making it very easy. And I finally called them after 2 weeks and I said, I put in my permit application and could I respectfully ask if you could, where it is. They'd lost it. I said, well, could you please find it because I'm actually losing business. So we can have one, we can't have two, but we can't move it around. So it's a good idea. It was a good idea.
One more question.
Sorry. When you first started talking, you had mentioned that locals didn't appreciate what you were trying to accomplish. And I just want to suggest that you've got a lot of assumption in there. I think a lot of the locals just are content enough with where they're already going. And until you offer something interesting enough to get them to change their habits, you're going to not be getting as much of that.
I think we're making inroads. And again, my middle initial is P, but it's not for patience. I mean, it feels like I've been at this for a year, which I have because I did all the build out of this space. But it's been 3 months, so we're learning. And in fact, you don't know until you've been here full time for a year, kind of the rhythms of the island. I mean, when we opened in July, I didn't realize it, but a lot of the locals are not here. They aren't here. We had tourist traffic, but we didn't have locals. I'd like to get to the point where we have 60 to 65% local people and 35 to 40% tourists. And there are moments where we have big weekends like Florida, Georgia weekend, like the RSM. We're preparing for that now. So you have to sort of be looking forward and again putting together an appeal that is sensitive to the rhythms of the island. And there are rhythms, and that's what makes it great, but it also is a little bit of a challenge if you're new.
Quick suggestion. A couple of years ago, I went to something, and it was at Starbucks, but this was several years ago. They actually had a coffee tasting, something that you might want to put on it, because it made me realize the difference between how coffee tastes with different ground coarse, medium, whether it's French pressed or brewed, things like that. That would be something that would be really great for you to do, is put on a coffee tasting.
We have done one, they call them a coffee cupping, which is different beans. You have 6 different kinds of beans, and you really can't taste the difference between the two. But I think it is something that we can do to differentiate ourselves. You're right, because there's a lot of education behind what the dark stuff in your cup is, and part of it is what kind of beans, but it's also how you brew it. And a lot of people here do brew their coffee at home. We do sell high-end hand-roasted coffee beans in our store, and actually makes for a better coffee. So, thank you all for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. We'll see you all next month. And please, Susan wants to open, so if we could expedite our way out. Thank you.